I'm not going to waste your time. Sprinting is the single best exercise a contact athlete can do, and in this video, I'm going to explain to you every single benefit. Before we begin, my name is Tig, and I help field sport athletes build an aesthetic physique without losing performance and even performing better. If you stick around to the end of this video, I'll explain to you every single benefit of sprinting, even the ones you wouldn't even think of, and also give you a sample sprint workout at the end. So starting off with probably the most important attribute of sprinting, which is acceleration. Now, acceleration is basically it's how long it takes you to hit top speed. And the reason it's more important than top end speed, which is the highest speed you can run at, is because most movements, 80 to 90% of movements in a field sport happen within a few seconds. And it's those few seconds, most of the time you can't even hit top speed. So it's those few seconds that matter. Say you're chasing a man for the ball, how long is that? Less than 2 or 3 seconds? That's why acceleration matters, how quickly you can accelerate and get off your feet. Then, of course, there's also top end speed, which is not quite as important, but also very important. It's obviously the highest speed you can run at. Now, the reason that's important because, well, top end speed exposures are rare. They do happen. And when they happen, the extra half meter per second can be the difference between winning and losing a game. The next thing sprinting develops is a thing called rate of force development. Now, unlike peak force development, which is developed by lifting, peak force development is basically the highest amount of force your body can produce regardless of time. Rate of force development has a speed and time component. That's why it's called power. Power is strength times speed. Strength is just strength on its own. How much force can be produced in 5 or 10 seconds? Doesn't happen in a sporting environment. It's less than a second to produce force. And that's what sprinting does. Obviously plyometrics and jumps also develop rate of force development, but none do better than sprinting does. Basically, if you're not elastic, you're just big and slow. Because muscles can't produce force quickly on their own. They need the tendons to be quick. That's what sprinting develops. Sprinting is basically the ultimate plyometric. So the next thing, let's give you a bit of a question here. What is the best hamstring exercise? It's not RDLs, it's not deadlifts, it's not Nordics, it's not hamstring curl, it is sprinting. Hamstrings are the single most active muscle when sprinting, and also sprinting is the single best hamstring exercise. Now, it is kind of a paradox saying, because you know the one, if you have weak hamstrings and you sprint, you'll tear your hamstrings, but because you don't sprint, you'll tear your hamstrings. That's kind of the paradox. That's why it's essential to start small and build up hamstring tolerance. Because if you want robust hamstrings, you need to be sprinting. Just as power is half strength and half speed, change of direction is half deceleration and half reacceleration. Sprinting trains the reacceleration part very well. Obviously, the deceleration part needs to be worked on itself, which can be done by just sprinting fast and then intentionally stopping yourself. But yeah, sprinting indirectly improves change of direction and agility by obviously increasing your power and your speed, but literally training half the equation of changing direction. You can train it by doing things like the T-drill or the 5-10-5. Basically, if you can change your direction faster, you'll beat your man almost every time. It also works on your conditioning in 2 separate ways. The first one is obviously, in itself, it's a form of alactic conditioning, which is, alactic is, it's an effort that lasts less than 6 seconds. Basically an anaerobic alactic exercise. I'll kind of break it down to you. Anaerobic means without oxygen, which means it doesn't utilize oxygen. And alactic means it doesn't last long enough for lactic acid to build up. And if you can imagine your conditioning is split up into 3 sections. There's aerobic, anaerobic lactic, and anaerobic alactic. Aerobic means it utilizes oxygen. Obviously anaerobic, you know what anaerobic means. And lactic, that basically means lactic acid generates. Anaerobic alactic, no oxygen, no lactic acid. That's what sprinting works on, that third system. And if you want good all-round fitness, you need to be training all 3 systems. So that's the first way that improves it. The second way is relative intensity. Say I can squat 120 kilograms and you get me to do as many reps as I can with 100 kilograms. How many reps am I going to get? Probably 6 or 7. Let's say over the course of a year, I get my squat from 120 kilograms to 150 kilograms. Then you ask me to do that 100 kilo rep out again. How many reps am I going to get? It's going to be a lot more. But I never worked on muscular endurance. So by just improving my strength, aka my maximum threshold, I indirectly improved endurance. The same thing with sprinting. If you can, let's say a sport is played at an average of 7 meters per second throughout the whole game. Right, well, it's probably not that, but we'll just say it is. Let's say your top speed is... Actually, I'll just make it easier for myself, just with the maths. Say the sport is played at 6 meters per second. Excuse me. And your top speed right now is 8 meters per second. That means on average, the sport is played at 75% of your maximum speed. Now let's say over the course of a year, you are able to take your top speed from 8 meters per second to 9 meters per second. Well, the speed the sport is played that hasn't changed. It's still 6 meters per second. But now your top speed is 9 meters per second. So the speed the sport is played at, by you increasing your speed, the speed the sport is played at has gone from 75% of your top speed to 66% of your top speed. So by increasing your maximum threshold, suddenly the norm is basically less. That's how sprinting works. And that's why it's so good. Like, you wouldn't even think it improves it in that way, but it does. Reason number 8 is the hormone response. Sprinting, unlike jogging, jogging is catabolic, which means it breaks molecules down. Sprinting is anabolic, which means it builds things up, because it releases testosterone and human growth hormone. So sprinting increases your testosterone and HGH, which will in turn allow you to build more muscle and recover faster. So despite what you may think, despite sprinting being a form of cardio, in a way, it actually helps you build muscle. Now, of course, this kind of spikes the longer the sprint is. So, like, I think basically the best workout you can do for human growth hormone is it's 30 seconds on at maximum intensity and 3 whole minutes off, a 1:6 work to rest ratio, and you will still be exhausted at the end of it. And I know from experience. But like, that is the hardest conditioning method I have ever used, and I've used a lot in my time. That is by far the hardest, but it's also probably the most beneficial. The reason I say this is because like the 30 seconds on releases the most HGH and testosterone, but like the short sprints, like the 10 or 20 meters, or even like the top end sprints. So like say a fly of 10, 15, 20 meters, a fly basically means distance at top speed. That will still produce it, but not nearly as much as the 30-second one. But of course, the 30-second one is very demanding, takes a lot to recover from, so only do it if you think you can. Now, people think sprinting is entirely based on power and speed, but it's also not. Well, it is, but it's not. It's not entirely based on it. It's only about 50%. I think the other 50% comes from the fact that sprinting itself is a skill that can be learned and mastered. I'm talking about technique, of course. And by improving your sprint technique intentionally, you'll basically level up your neuromuscular coordination, which is actually shown to increase how effective you are at learning skills, because your technique is more efficient, which will also lead to less energy leakage, obviously faster speeds, less injury risk, everything. Now, if you want a sample sprinting session, I'll explain one very quickly now. So you want to start off with your dynamic warm-up. Of course. So obviously raise your heart rate, mobilize your joints, activate the muscles, all that. And then the important part is do 2 30-meter sprints before the actual sprint session. Do one at 70% of your max speed and the other one at 90% of your max speed. Now, this is assuming you can only do one session per week, which is honestly enough to maintain speed in season. What you want to do is do 4 to 6 reps of 10 to 20 meters of acceleration. Now, I cover the sprint mechanics in a previous video, so you can check that out if you want. But yeah, you want to do 4 to 6 reps, 10 to 20 meters of acceleration, which is basically go flat out from the start. And then about 4 reps of top end sprints, where you basically want to spend about 20 to 30 meters building up in speed, and then have a marked out point of about 10 to 20 meters, where you're, and basically at the start of the point is where you want to be hitting top speed, and you only want to maintain it to the end of the second point, basically. And then if you want some simple plyometrics to finish off with, do 3 sets of single leg hops, do about 6 on each leg, and 3 sets of broad jump of about 3 to 6 reps. That's all you need if you're a beginner. Now, of course, if you have flimsy hamstrings, that's okay. Just keep the volume very light, and even if you have to, start off with hamstring rehab before you even think about sprinting. Because, as a coach told me, your greatest ability is your availability, which is basically your best ability is not getting injured. So that's every real benefit of sprinting. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. It costs nothing from you, and of course, if you don't like me, if you really hate me, you can just unsubscribe later. Train to dominate, not just to look good.